There's a photograph from 1940. A young boy in red, yellow, and green, smiling beside the Dark Knight. The first sidekick. The birth of a myth. Robin, the boy wonder. America fell in love with the idea instantly. A child fighting crime, laughing in the face of death, representing hope in a world drowning in war and despair. But here's what nobody tells you. That man didn't want a partner. He wanted a soldier. And soldiers, in Gotham, don't retire. They break. Or they die. And for decades, Batman made sure they did both. This isn't a story about heroism. It's about what happens when a broken man decides that his pain is so sacred, so pure, that he's willing to sacrifice children to keep it alive. That man didn't just allow Robins to die. He engineered a system where their deaths were inevitable. And the most horrifying part? He kept recruiting. Let's start with the myth. Robin was supposed to be the light to Batman's darkness, the laughter in the shadow, the proof that even in Gotham's hell, innocence could survive. Dick Grayson, the first Robin, was an orphan, just like Bruce, a boy who watched his parents fall, and Batman saw himself in that child. But instead of protecting him, instead of giving him therapy, stability, love, Batman gave him a cape and threw him into the fire. And the world cheered. Comics sold millions. Robin became the most famous sidekick in history, a symbol that you didn't have to be an adult to matter, that you could fight back, that you could win. But here's the part they didn't show you in the comics. Dick Grayson wasn't trained. He was conditioned. Batman didn't teach him combat as a skill. He taught him combat as identity. He made sure that boy believed that his worth was measured in bruises, in criminals stopped, in nights spent bleeding on rooftops. And it worked. Dick became one of the greatest fighters in the DC universe. But he also became something else. A man who couldn't form stable relationships. A man who threw himself into violence because it was the only language he knew. Batman didn't save Dick Grayson. He weaponized him. And then came Jason Todd, the second Robin, a kid from the streets, angry, reckless, everything Dick wasn't. And Batman took him in anyway, not because Jason needed saving, but because Batman needed a Robin. The role had become part of the myth, part of the brand. And Jason was expendable. Batman knew it. The writers knew it. And in 1988, DC Comics did something unprecedented. They let the readers vote. Should Robin live or die? The vote was close, but death won. And so Jason Todd was beaten to death with a crowbar by the Joker and left in a warehouse to explode. Batman arrived too late. He held the body. He grieved. And then, a few years later, he found another child and put a costume on him. Tim Drake, the third Robin. A boy who figured out Batman's identity through detective work. A genius. A tactician. And Batman looked at this brilliant child and thought, yes, he'll do. Tim wasn't an orphan when Bruce met him. He had a family. But Batman didn't care. He needed a Robin. So he trained him, manipulated him. And when Tim's father was murdered, when his girlfriend was killed, when his best friend died, Batman kept him in the field, because that's what Robins do. They suffer, they endure, and they keep fighting. Then came Stephanie Brown. She wasn't even supposed to be Robin. She was Spoiler, another young vigilante, desperate for Batman's approval. And when Tim briefly quit, Batman gave her the role. Not because she was ready, but because he needed to prove a point. That Robin was a position, a uniform, not a person. Stephanie lasted 89 days. She was tortured. She died. And Batman didn't even put her memorial in the Batcave. She was erased. A failed experiment. And then, Damian Wayne, Bruce's biological son. A child raised by assassins. A boy bred for violence. And Batman took him in, gave him the Robin suit, and trained him even harder than the others. Because Damian wasn't just a soldier. He was legacy. He was proof that the mission could continue beyond Bruce's death. And Damian died too, stabbed by his own clone. And Bruce brought him back, because by then, the pattern was clear. Robins weren't children. They were ammunition. Here's the paradox. Batman is considered one of the greatest heroes in fiction, the symbol of justice, the man who refuses to kill because he believes in the value of life. And yet, he has sent more children into life-threatening situations than almost any villain in Gotham. The Joker kills for chaos. Batman kills for order. But both of them destroy children. The difference is, Batman sleeps at night, because he's convinced himself it's necessary, that the mission is bigger than any one life, that Gotham needs Robin more than Robin needs childhood. And the most disturbing part? He's not wrong. Every time a Robin dies, crime doesn't stop. Gotham doesn't heal. Another child just takes the uniform. Because Batman built a system that requires child soldiers to function. He didn't create Robins to protect them. He created them to protect Gotham from the truth, that Batman alone isn't enough, that his war is unwinnable, that his trauma has metastasized into a religion, and Robins are the sacrifice that keeps it alive. There's a scene in the comics where Superman confronts him, asks him how he can justify it, and Batman's response is chilling. He says, "They chose this." But they didn't. They were children, children who looked up to him, who trusted him, who wanted to be like him. And he let them believe that being like him was something worth dying for. Jason Todd came back from the dead, not as Robin, as Red Hood, a killer, a broken reflection of everything Batman tried to build. And when they finally faced each other, Jason asked Bruce the one question that mattered. Why didn't you kill the Joker for me? And Batman said, because it would be too easy. I'd never stop. Jason looked at him and realized the truth. Bruce didn't kill the Joker because Bruce cared more about his own moral purity than he cared about Jason. The mission was always more important than the child. This is the legacy of Robin. Not heroism, not hope, but the cold calculus of a man so consumed by his own pain that he's willing to spread it to everyone who gets close. Dick became Nightwing, but he's still haunted. Tim became Red Robin, but he's still lost. Stephanie came back, but she's still fighting for validation. Damian is alive again, but he's still being trained to die. And Jason? Jason became the thing Batman feared most. The proof that his system doesn't save people. It devours them. So here's the question nobody wants to ask. If Batman truly wanted to protect Gotham's children, why does he keep dressing them in bright colors and sending them into the dark? The answer is simple. He doesn't want to protect them. He wants to prove that his suffering has meaning, that his mission is righteous. And the only way to do that is to make others suffer the same way. Robin isn't a partner. Robin is a mirror, a way for Batman to relive his trauma over and over and call it justice. And we let him. We buy the comics. We watch the movies. We cheer when a new Robin appears. Because we've been conditioned, just like they have, to believe that this is what heroism looks like. That sacrifice is noble. That children in capes are inspiring. But strip away the mythology, and what you're left with is this. A billionaire who could fund schools, hospitals, and reform programs, but instead chooses to traumatize orphans and call it mentorship. That man didn't want Robin to die, but he built a world where Robin's death was inevitable. And when it happened, he didn't stop. He didn't change. He just found another child and started again. Because in Gotham, hope isn't something you protect, it's something you weaponize. And Robin, the boy wonder, the symbol of light in the darkness, is just another casualty in a war that was lost before it ever began.